Hi everyone, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette and today I'm going to be clearing up the area around the bottom of this massive arch that we've got here. We set this up I think last year. It may have been the autumn before that, and we've planted some roses at the bottom and a few other things, and I just need to tidy it up, and I've got some plants that I want to go in around in this area. So what I'm going to be doing is widening that little patch of soil around the base of the arch and just bringing it in slightly so that the plants that I put in there have room to spread out and they won't encroach on the grass, because that's just going to make it really difficult to mow the lawn and we won't have a nice tidy edge. And whilst I do want to sort of soften the edge a little bit with plants, I don't want the plants growing over the grass, because there'll just be a muddy slushy mess underneath, knowing our British summers, which are generally speaking quite rainy. Anyway, so I'm going to widen it a bit. I'm going to create a nice edge. I'm going to do some weeding, cut back anything I need to cut back on both sides of this arch, and then I've got some plants to put in. And I thought I'd bring you along whilst I did that today. I wanted to show you what I've done. It probably doesn't look like much, but actually it's taken quite a long time. I've edged all the way around the area that I've weeded, and I've taken out all the dandelions and all the other weeds, but I've also taken out all the self-seeded foxgloves and all the self-seeded aquilegia. Now, some of you may be horrified by that idea, but actually they don't go with my planting plan, and I find that the ones that self-seed don't necessarily come back as the original. So I find that with the foxgloves in particular, I just get the purple spires, and I don't want the purple spires here. And the aquilegias are quite often just the yellow ones, which I don't want either. So I've decided to dig them all out. The other thing I also took out was all the self-seeded achillea or yarrow, because I'm not sure what colour that's going to be either. I've got various different colours throughout the garden, and as again it just doesn't go with my planting plan. So it's another day today. This job has taken 2 days, which is fine, but I really enjoyed doing it. Actually, I really enjoyed edging this bed yesterday, and today I'm going to do this side and then I'll be ready to plant. So I'm going to carry on and take you through the process, and then I'll talk about the plants that I'm going to be putting in. So while Richard's finishing clearing the bed behind me, he's just taking off the top level of weeds and taking out the rocks so we can plant there. I'm going to prune some roses. So I've got 3 roses around the base of each arch, well 2 around the base of the arch and then 1 shrub rose further away. And I'm just going to go through how I'm going to prune those. So I always start my pruning by looking for any dead, diseased or damaged stems. So anything that looks brown and crispy and dry, I will chop that off. And then what I do after that is I try to create an open vase shape, and what we mean by that is we want the outside to be opening up and to have very little in the center that is weak or might end up crossing, because if branches cross then they'll rub against other branches and that could create an open wound and let disease in. So let me talk you through how I'm going to prune this shrub rose here. The first thing I'm going to do is cut off this branch here because it's brown and crispy and dead, and I'm going to cut it off to an outward facing bud just to start with. But that's possibly not where I'm going to leave it. And then this one needs deadheading as well, and I'm just going to cut that down to an outward facing bud. The other thing I'm going to do is take these leaves off because they've got a little bit of black spots and we don't want any of that on for next year. So I'm just going to snip those off. And then all of this, it's not going on the compost, this will go in the bin. So I've not taken off any of the new shoots that have started growing, just last year's old dead leaves. So once I've got rid of anything that is dead, diseased or damaged, I then look at the plant and I'm trying to create something that's open on the inside. So if there are weak stems that are growing inwards, then I'm just going to take those right off at the base. So this one is crossing a couple of branches and it's not strong. And then I'm going to take this off because that's also in the middle, and this one off. And then these are really puny. These little stems here are too little to support any real roses. So I'm going to cut it down to, that's a node there. So I'm going to cut it down to there in the hope that a branch will come off this way. And then this branch is crossing here. So it's going to rub eventually. So I'm going to keep this stronger branch on the outside. And I'm going to take this one off right at the bottom where it joins the other stem. And then I'm going to chop these off to an outward facing bud because they're too little, they're not strong stems. So I'm just looking for outward facing buds. And take that one right off to there. So these are growing inwards and we don't want those. And then this is quite weak and feeble. So I'm going to cut this to an outward facing bud as well, to there. And then again, these are a little bit weak and feeble. So I'm going to cut these off because we're trying to encourage the rose to flower on strong stems. So I'm also going to take this one off, and I'm going to take this one right down to an outward facing bud, which is there. And then I'm not particularly happy with all these little bits up here. So again, I'm going to look for an outward facing bud and chop it down to there. And then do check the base of your rose to make sure you haven't got any of last year's leaves hanging around in case they've got disease, and give your plant a really good mulch. We mulched these about 2 weeks ago, so they've been mulched. So last year at the end of autumn, what I did was I tied in the long whippy branches of the climbing rose, and I tried to tie them in so that they grew horizontally, which can be seen with this one here. You can't even see that, can you? You need to go up a bit. But what I didn't do was I didn't do any hard pruning. So what I'm going to do now is, again, take off anything that's dead, diseased or damaged, and then I'm going to try to make sure everything is growing horizontally, because if your stems grow horizontally, then they will send side shoots up at the nodes and you'll get more flowers that way. And I'm also going to take off anything that's really little and weak, so that I just have some strong main stems growing. So I'm going to start by taking off this weak one here and this dead branch there, and I'm going to take this off at the base because this is brown and definitely dead. So I'm just clearing the mulch away because as I said, we've mulched these roses. So if I clear the mulch away, I can see where the dead bit starts. And I'm just going to take that off there. And then cover it back up again. And then that little bit there is also dead. And this branch is crossing this one here. So in fact, what I'm going to do, because this branch is nice and strong, is I'm just going to take this one off completely. So this branch I'm really happy with, but this one seems to be going against the grain. So what I'm going to do, because it's a little bit weak and dead at the top, is I'm going to cut it back to a bud. If I cut it back to that one there, there's a bud on this side and it will grow that way. And then hopefully it won't cross paths with this one that I'm training in this direction. This is my Claire Austin rose and it's got way too many branches, so I want to cut it back so that it just has a few main stems. So again, I'm going to look for anything that's dead, diseased or damaged. It's so windy today, it's ridiculous. Now that the bed's completely prepped, we're going to do some planting and I'm super excited about what we're planting here. So I have got 3 gorgeous peonies called Mother's Choice, and they start off like a really sort of pale creamy colour and then turn white, and they grow to about 80 centimetres tall and 90 centimetres wide. It's about 3 foot by 3 foot, but they really need supporting because they have huge blooms. So I've got some peony supports I'm going to put in straight away. The other thing that I am planting is a deutzia called Montrose, and this has got like starry pink little flowers, and I think it's going to go really well with the Mother's Choice and the roses that I've got planted in this bed. And I'm going to be planting loads of Mexican fleabane, and that's why I've widened this border here, because it really spreads and it makes these gorgeous mounds of tiny little daisies that start off white and then they turn pink, and I just think it's going to look really lush and pretty and soft, and they flower for such a long period of time. They'll just keep flowering. They're hardy perennials. They last really well here in my garden in South Buckinghamshire, and some people do find that they spread, but they're really easy to pull out if they spread. I have not found that at all. I don't find that they spread in my garden, but this is a really sunny spot and I think they're going to really enjoy it here, and it's just going to be a really soft mound at the bottom of the rose arch. As with all herbaceous peonies, don't plant them too low, and if you're going to mulch over the top, remember to plant them just slightly further up because they really don't like to be buried. I'm sorry about the state of me, it's so windy, it's ridiculous. I really hope you can hear me. I'm just going to go over what we did. I'm just going to show you where we planted everything. So over here I've planted the Mexican fleabane at the base here, and I've put 5 along here, and I've spaced them, or I'd say about 50 or 60 centimetres apart, because that's how wide they grow. So each one will sort of form a little mound there like that, and hopefully they'll just join and it'll just be this sea of Mexican fleabane at the base of this arch. This is some Sweet William that's coming back again, been overwintered. These are some anemones that I left in, and I've got a couple of bulbs that I had to try and avoid that are coming up here. And I've also found when I was weeding over here that there are some ranunculus in this bed that we didn't take out, because normally I lift all my ranunculus, but I dug them up and found that I had some. And then over on this side, again, I've widened this bed and edged it, and I've put the Mexican fleabane along the bottom here. Again, there's some more Sweet William. Over here, there's some wallflowers. These are the Sugar Rush Bicolor Purple. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they are on the edge there. They'll make a nice little mound there. And then over here, you can see where I put the peony supports. It's a good idea to get them in from the start. Unfortunately they don't match, but that's fine. You won't see once the foliage is up. But these are the 3 Mother's Choice peonies here. And again, I've spaced those apart so that when they are in leaf, the plants should join, and hopefully we won't see those supports. And then just behind it over here, this plant here is the Deutzia Montrose, and that will grow to about 1.2 meters. So that's just going to be a nice pinky colour over the top of the Mother's Choice. And as you can see, our garden is not perfect. This bed still needs to be finished. This one will carry on down here, down towards the arch, and we need to sort out the whole of the back of that bed over there. So there'll be 2 beds. You'll be able to walk down the path in the middle, kind of I mean, you can't really see the path, but there'll be a path there. And we are getting there. It's just that I really want to get plants in. I can't bear looking at this mess, and it's such a huge project. But that's it for today. I really hope you've enjoyed joining me in this, what turned out to be quite a big project. It took a day and a half to do, but actually I'm really pleased we've done it. Digging out and enlarging the bed can be a little bit time consuming, and it's quite heavy work when it's so pebbly and we've got such heavy clay soil. But I had a bit of Richard's help, and I'm just so happy it's done, because I think it's going to make such a big difference to this archway this summer, and I cannot wait until this bed is full of all my annuals and my dahlias. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you all next time.